Hi everyone, this is Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I'm Tim Durling. Thank you for watching. On this episode, it's kind of one that's maybe overdue. One of my favorite bands ever, and the band that gave this show its name, Kansas. I've done several episodes on them, and it occurred to me I've never actually done one on their CDs, so it's a collection worth going over. I've got some interesting versions of some of their CDs here, so we'll get started with that episode. First, Kansas album came out in 1974, and this is the CD version I have. This is a typical American CBS version, probably from the mid to late 80s on Kirshner CBS. Nothing much on the back there. The CD itself, and the booklet actually has some guts to it. Not all of them do. It's the same write-up that's inside of the vinyl. All of the lyrics and photo of the band. And I don't know why there was no rhyme or reason to what albums had lyrics and what ones didn't. I don't know. Because next up is the second Kansas album, Song for America. Once again, it's a US CBS copy, the nice price sticker. If you've got older CBS CDs, you've seen that before. Love the artwork, talked about that many, many times. First appearance of the Kansas logo. That's what it looks like on the side, and the back is just simply the cover again. Don't know why. There's the CD itself, and the booklet has pretty much nothing in it. Pretty much nothing in it. But the record itself didn't have much in it either, at least the version that I have. I don't know if there's a version that exists with the lyrics. Feel free to comment if there is. Next up, also 1975, album number 3, and Mask, CBS US CD. And instead of having the Kirshner logo on it, it actually just says CBS. So this might be a slightly older pressing. Photos of the band there, as appeared on the back of the record. And this has all the lyrics and credits inside of it. This one actually has everything that should have come with it. Next up is the first Canadian one I'm going to tell you about, kind of. It's Leftoverture, of course, their first big album, 1976, with the classic cover art. And this is basically a US CBS CD, except for the fact that it's got an import sticker on here, imported by Sony Music of Canada. At a certain point, they got lazy in Canada manufacturing discs. They just imported them from the States and stuck a sticker on them. Kirshner logo back on this CD. And even though there is a lyric sleeve that came with the record, nothing in the CD itself. The other really big Kansas album, 1977, Point of No Return, more classic cover art. This is actually the first time I saw it, the first version of this I have. This is a US CD. And this is one that says manufactured in Japan by CBS Sony, but yet there's a bar here that says now made in the USA. There's some that are older than this that were simply made in Japan for US sale. Back cover art almost as cool as the front cover art. There's the disc itself. And what I like about this one is that it did a good job at reprinting what came with the record. I wish they all did. I know there's remastered versions. I don't have many of those. But this is really cool. It's like you're looking through an old history book or something. So this obviously was reprinted from the record sleeve. 1978, the first live album, 2 for the Show, US CBS CD. And this one doesn't have Closet Chronicles on it, because that would have made it, they would have had to put it on 2 CDs, so they left it off. The remastered version, of course, restores that. As they went along making CDs, they held more. The first 2 Rush live albums are like that as well. I like how they've got the actual logo on the disc itself. And there's a lot of cool photos inside the record. There's nothing inside, none of those are inside here except all the credits. Now the next one, this is the odd one that I was talking about. The really odd one. It's an album I like a lot. 1979 Monolith. And look at it here. So far it looks like a US CD on the back cover. It looks like a US CD. Down here, we learn that it is actually Canadian. I'll hold that up and you can look. It was made by CBS Records Canada, Don Mills, Ontario. I've never seen any other Canadian CBS CD that looks like this. This has got to be really old. I found this in a pawn shop in 1992, which is the year I got into the band. I just happened to stumble upon this, and I've never seen another Canadian CD like this. Most of them either have, with the Leftoverture CD, you saw the sticker on it that said, you know, imported by CBS Canada or Sony Canada or whatever, or they have what I call the box look, which is a very unimaginative, just what it says, box, and a very generic look to the back of them. My CD episodes for Aerosmith, for Cheap Trick, I've got CDs, which are pretty old, that look like that. I think this one predates those, because I've never seen anything else like it. It actually, you know, redoes the back cover art, which I was not expecting. I didn't realize at the time. It was only years later I realized how odd and how rare this CD is. And it doesn't have all the pictures and lyrics inside of it, but it does have this little quote here that was in it, and the song titles. So that was weird. So for many years, for some reason, CBS only manufactured those albums on disc when CDs first came out, and of course the best of from '84. So the three that were in between, the three early '80s albums, were well, they didn't exist on CD. They just did not exist on CD. Not even imports, which is really strange. So fortunately in 1996, Sony Legacy reissued them. So one of my favorite Kansas albums, Audiovisions. This is the CD version of that came out in 1996. Now on the front cover, it doesn't look all that different. Side, you can tell it's very, very different, and it actually reprints the cover art from the back cover, and there's a little write-up about the CD saying that it's the first time on CD. There's what the CD itself looks like, and the booklet, I'll get it out here. The booklet reprints all of the credits and lyrics from the original album. I was very excited to add this to my collection. I actually found all three of them at the same time in 1996. I found them in Montreal when a bunch of us went to see Kiss on the reunion tour. That's another story. 1982, well, here we've got the album that named this show, 1982's Vinyl Confessions. That's Stella, she's at the door. So yeah, first time on CD. I don't like the logo. I've never liked the logo they used for this. I don't know why they did it this way, but to have this on CD was very, very cool. Same as Audiovisions, they reprint the back cover art, and there's a write-up about it. And then you see this here. And again, it has all of the lyrics and credits that were in the original album. There's a little bonus here. A coworker of mine gave me a bunch of old ticket stubs of his, one of which is from the Vinyl Confessions tour. So this is a Kansas with special guests, Memorial Coliseum, Fort Wayne, Indiana, September 12th, 1982. So there's a ticket stub from the Vinyl Confessions tour. $8.50. That was an advance ticket. So cost you $8.50 to go see Kansas in 1982. 1983, so the last of those three rare albums came out on CD, Drastic Measures, the one that looks the least like a Kansas album. So this again is the Sony Legacy reissue, and that's what the disc looks like, and all of the lyrics and credits. So that was nice. That filled some holes in my collection that needed filled. 1984, the end of their original contract with CBS, The Best of Kansas. I've always really liked this cover art. It does exactly what Rush's Exit Stage Left does, is that it brings back cover art from all of their previous albums, and I'll get to those here in a second. This is a US version, although I did buy it in Canada. There's no sticker on it, or the sticker was on the plastic maybe, but this is a US CD. and it had everything that the record had in it, almost. All of the lyrics. The only thing it doesn't have is the back, where it had all of the previous covers of all the albums on it, like the vinyl does, and my vinyl episode shows all that. So I'll show you. So obviously we have John Brown, who appears on the first album cover. This thing here, this creature here from Song for America. Mask, the cover of Mask was made up entirely of sea life. I had to look this one up on the internet. There's actually a fish in John Brown's beard. I'll hold that so it's not blurry. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there is actually a fish there. Leftoverture, well, you could say that that was John Brown on the cover of Leftoverture again, but also there are stray sheets of sheet music here. That's another reference. The ship going off the edge of the world, that's from Point of No Return. There is a broom or a mop, I think it's a broom in the corner. That reference is Two for the Show. This little figure looking in the moon, that's from Monolith. This is another one I had to look up online because I couldn't find a reference to Audiovisions, but the glove he is wearing is like one of the characters in Audiovisions. Vinyl Confessions, there's the chair under the light. And Drastic Measures, he's dressed as one of the composers in Drastic Measures. I just think that stuff is, it's very, very cool. I've always really enjoyed that. So Audiovisions is tied for my favorite Kansas album. My favorite one is tied with this one, Power from 1986. This was their first of 2 albums on MCA. And this is an original US version. As a matter of fact, this one and the follow-up I found in '92, both still in their long boxes. So this is an early CD, and like a lot of early CDs, you have to turn it up much louder to listen to it, but still plays. That's the disc itself. The writing is a little bit faded on it. And this has everything that the record would have had with it. Lyrics and... it fell down. Lyrics and some photos. Kind of like the gray palette they used for this. And I like the fact that they brought back the original Kansas logo. 1988 follow-up album, and their last for MCA, In the Spirit of Things. Not great cover art. And this is a US MCA. This one evaded me on vinyl for many years until I finally found it. Photo of the band, and lyrics, and various, I guess, vignettes, antique photos, things of that nature. It all ties along with the concept of the album, semi-concept. Next thing to come out, 1992, Live at the Whiskey. This one has a few references to past albums as well. So you've got the ship, you've got the hand writing there, and you've got the sheet music, you've got the feathers and the horns here. Of course, you've got the violin. And this was independently released on Intersound. That was the band in '92. Kind of like the disc itself. It's got the silver against the white. Works really well, I think. And this is actually a BMG direct version of this. Would look cool on a record. This has never been on vinyl, to my knowledge. Kerry Livgren wasn't in the band at this point, but he did make a guest appearance. There he is there. He guested on Dust in the Wind, I believe, and then there's individual band shots of everybody. Now, the one time I got to see Kansas was in 1994, like in April of '94, and Steve Walsh said from the stage they had a box set coming out, and it did come out at the end of that year, and this is it. It's on Epic Sony Legacy. It's a 2-disc box set. Love the cover art. It's a classic Kansas cover art with John Brown on it. Wish it had been a 3-disc box set, but it only covers the original lineup from 1974 to 1980. And there's a few songs on here that were unreleased demo and live versions, and a couple of songs from Audiovisions that I didn't have on CD at this point, and one brand new song called Wheels. So here's the booklet that came with it, and I learned a lot about the band that I didn't know at this point. Lengthy write-up on the band here about their history to that point anyway. discography in the back. This is a sheet that came with it advertising other Sony box sets, and each of the discs both looked like this. They both looked exactly the same, and the discs themselves look kind of cool too. So the next thing to come out is, I think, a really, really overlooked album, in light of the fact it was not a good time for traditional classic rock, and also they were no longer on a major label, but they still managed to put out a really good album called Freaks of Nature. This is from 1995. And this again is on Intersound, as Live at the Whiskey was. Fantastic album. I highly recommend checking it out. It's one of the heavier Kansas albums, although it's very progressive. There's the disc itself. This is a US copy. I've listened to this album many, many times. Lyrics and credits in it. Individual band photos, and full band shot on the back. Next thing to come out was in 1998. They did an orchestral album, like a lot of classic bands did, featuring the London Symphony Orchestra, Always Never the Same. So it's kind of an update of the composer from the Leftoverture cover. This is on River North Records, and I gotta say, it's the only thing I have on that label. So this is mostly older songs redone, although there were 3 brand new songs and a cover of the Beatles' Eleanor Rigby on here. So it was pretty much a new album. There's the disc itself. The credits were underneath. And it does have all of the lyrics of the songs, old and new, which is kind of a cool twist. Also in 1998, King Biscuit, which was a flour company, they used to have the King Biscuit Flour Hour, which was a Sunday night syndicated concert series. Lots of bands from the 60s, 70s, and 80s were on it. Kansas recorded for them on their February 14th, 1989 gig at the Tower Theater in Philadelphia. So this would have been in the Spirit of Things tour. And in 1998, they released this concert, or King Biscuit did. Kind of cool cover art, very Kansas-like, even though they had little to do with this. Heavy on material from In the Spirit of Things, and the classic material. This is the Steve Morse lineup, so it's cool to hear them in concert. And a pretty cool write-up about the state of the band as it was at that time, and this show in and of itself. So this was a fine addition to the Kansas catalog. And another overlooked album. And the last thing that they did for many years came out in the year 2000, Somewhere to Elsewhere. This is on Magna Carta Records, which is a prog rock label. This reunited the original 6-man Kansas plus Billy Greer, who was in the band playing bass. So there was 2 bass players on this. And Kerry Livgren wrote all the songs, I think, or co-wrote them. Another fine album. I don't know if it's quite as good as Freaks of Nature, but it's really good. And I don't know how easy this album is to find now, because I think it's out of print. But I would highly recommend, if you like Kansas and you've never heard this album, it's worth seeking out. It's a portion of this CD's profits to the World War II Memorial Fund, which is not the last time they would honor veterans and military personnel like that. All the lyrics mixed with band shots, and a lot of strong material on this album. And this was the last new Kansas studio album for a long, long time. We will get to that. 2002, another live album. Device Voiced Drum. That was because it was their first DVD. This is the CD version on Compendia. And a good mix of old and new songs on this. This was recorded before a special audience. You know, there's some cool things on here. They bring in a choir. They do the preacher from In the Spirit of Things. And because even though it is not the complete original lineup, but you get Robbie Steinhardt back in the band and Steve Walsh, they do Fight Fire with Fire and Play the Game Tonight, which is pretty cool. So, some credits and some drawings of each of the band members. And I also have that, because they called it Device Voice Drum, it was their first DVD, so I also have it on DVD. There's a few interview extras, which are kind of cool, and it talks about the making of it. Other than that, it's pretty much the same, although there is one song, Distant Vision from somewhere else, where that only appears in the, no, actually I think that appears on this, on the CD, in the enhanced portion. It's the only way you can watch that. And then I jump ahead a few years. There's lots of compilations I don't have, but I jump ahead to 2009 when they did the 25th or 35th anniversary tour, and it was documented here. There's no place like home, and like Point of No Return, they spell no, K-N-O-W. They bring some special guests on for this. Steve Morse appears on here. Again, a good selection of old and new songs. Now, by this time, this was getting to the point where Steve Walsh, who I have tremendous respect for as a vocalist, wasn't singing the way he used to, and I'll just leave it at that. This is actually on Inside Out Music, which is, you'll see that label a lot from here on in. So yeah, when you hear this, you'll hear that, you know, there's a lot of help, a lot of backing vocal help from Billy Greer and other band members. So, but good sounding album. Also an orchestra on this. Didn't have this until just a few years ago. This one I didn't get when it came out, and it also came out on DVD, which I don't have. In 2015, which of course by 2015 I was doing the show, so I have an episode dedicated to this, so I won't go into it a lot, but it was a DVD documentary on the band Miracles Out of Nowhere. If you want to look up the episode I did on this, go ahead, type in Tim's Final Confessions, Kansas, Miracles Out of Nowhere, it'll pop right up. Great history of the band, and kind of brings everything full circle. And then we get the news that Steve Walsh has retired and the band records a new album. And from here on in, starting with this, every single one that I talk about here, I've got dedicated episodes for. So I'm not going to go into as much detail. 2016, The Prelude Implicit, great album with the revamped Kansas lineup. Fantastic artwork as always. Return to form, couldn't be happier with it. Again, I did a whole episode on this. I got this on CD and vinyl, really looks good on vinyl. The follow-up is their live album, Leftoverture Live and Beyond, where they do the Leftoverture album in its entirety, plus some songs from the new album, plus just some other Kansas classics, again with the revamped lineup. And by now, Inside Out Music is distributed by Sony, so they've kind of come full circle. They're back on the label that they started with, which is pretty cool. If you stick with it long enough in the peaks and valleys, that's the message. I did a review episode of this as well. And just this year, and it's still my favorite album of 2020, not that I've heard a lot, The Absence of Presence. Again, check out my episode, my review episode. I wish they'd have made the logo a little bit clearer here, but I have listened to this and listened to this and listened to this, just like I did last year with Queensryche's The Verdict. I can't get enough of this album. Check it out. It's on Inside Out Sony. Should be fairly easy to find because it's on Sony. Worth ordering. I mean, it's just fantastic. And to compare it to The Prelude Implicit, which is the other album with this lineup, I would just say maybe this one's a little bit more rocking, but that's no slight on the previous one. It's just they're doing different things. But that is my Kansas CD collection. I'd be interested to see what different versions of those CDs some of you out there might have. Thanks for watching Tim's Vinyl Confessions.